Hi friends, Mrs. Wilkins here to help you understand fractions a little bit better. I would like for you to grab the following things: a sheet of paper, your handy dandy notebook, or you can write on the back of a piece of paper that you have laying around at home, just as long as it's not something important. You also are going to need something to write with. Just like in my 5th grade class, I always tell you to use the colors red, yellow, blue, and green because your brain likes those colors. So those are the colors I will be using today. As I explained in my New Jersey Live lesson for division of fractions, a fraction has two parts. It has a numerator and a denominator. Okay? On the top of the fraction is called the numerator, and on the bottom of the fraction is a denominator. For an example, I have the fraction 1/2. The 1 would be called the numerator. The 2 would be called the denominator. So in your notebook, let's go ahead and take a note, okay? Open up your notebook. At the top, choose one of your colors, and you can write understanding fractions. We need a quick heading. And today we're going to be working in our My Math book. So if you want to also write that down, it's going to be My Math page 551. So go ahead and take that note in your notebook. Go ahead and get a heading here so that you have something to work from. Okay, we want to understand fractions. So at the top of the fraction is called the numerator. The bottom half of the fraction is called the denominator. A fraction is a number that names equal parts of a whole or parts of a set. A fraction represents division of the numerator by the denominator. So I always like to say the fraction bar means divide. The fraction bar means divide, just like it says in your book on page 551. A fraction represents division of a numerator by denominator. So again, the fraction bar means divide. The fraction bar means divide. So I like to change my fraction bar into a division symbol. All right. So it's exactly as you see it. Numerator divided by denominator. That's key to know by fraction. So if I were going to set up a division problem with a fraction, okay, this is important. The denominator is your divisor, goes outside the box. The numerator is your dividend, it goes inside the box. Your denominator is your divisor. Your numerator is your dividend, goes inside the box. Dividend, inside the box. So if I were going to divide this traditionally, it would look like this. So let's read example number 1 on page 551 in volume 2 of your My Math book. It says, Dylan, Drake, and Jade are sharing 2 small pizzas equally after their lacrosse game. How much does each person get? I know that there's some words there that are going to hint for me to divide. It says share. Write that down. It also said equally. These are words that are going to hint to me that there's going to be some division taking place. Write that down. These are clue words that are going to let me know that division is taking place. Share and equally hint that there's going to be some sort of division. Here's the second read. Dylan, Drake, and Jade are sharing 2 small pizzas equally after their lacrosse game. How much does each person get? Now, it said 3 people when I read it, right? Who were those 3 people? I heard Dylan, who else? Drake, and Jade. So I know one of my numbers in my fraction is going to be a 3 because there's 3 people. Then it says they share something. What do they share? Okay. It says they share 2 pizzas. Okay. and they share it equally. So what's being shared is going to go as my, what do you think, numerator or denominator? Okay, it's going to be my numerator, and they share it amongst how many people do they divide it amongst equally? 3. So 2 pizzas divided or shared, in this case they use the word shared equally among 3 people. Got that? Good. Great. Let's move on to my math page 554. So at the top of my notebook, I'm going to write this down so you know exactly where to turn in your book. If you have the book, go ahead and open it up right now to my math page 554. If for some reason you don't have a book, you can follow along with a sheet of paper or your handy dandy notebook. So we're going to go on my math page 554, and this is coming from volume 2. So you should be in book number 2. Okay, great. So number 5. So if I'm working on number 5, I'm going to put that off in the margin, put a dot, or you can circle it. Number 5 says, DeMont used 4 gallons of gasoline in 3 days driving to work. Each day, he used the same amount of gasoline. How many gallons of gasoline did he use each day? So if you have your book, go ahead and highlight the most important information. I'm going to write it down on the paper. Each day, DeMont used 4 gallons of gas in 3 days. While driving to work. Each day, he used the same amount of gasoline. How many gallons of gasoline did he use each day? The word same is going to be a hint here for me. Let's do the third read. DeMont uses 4 gallons of gasoline in 3 days driving to work. Each day, he used the same amount of gasoline. How many gallons of gasoline did he use each day? In this case, remember, what is being shared? He has to use the gasoline over a total of 3 days. So it means he's going to have 4 gallons of gas divided by or shared the same amount over 3 days. So your numerator is going to be 4 gallons. Your denominator is going to be 3 days. So your fraction should look like this. 4 is the numerator, 3 as the denominator, because he has 4 gallons of gas to share it over a total of 3 days. Okay? Now, if we want to figure out the answer to the question is, how many gallons of gasoline did he use each day? Now I'm going to set up a division problem, because right now when we have a bigger number over top of a smaller number, that's called improper. All right? We don't want to say, oh, okay, DeMont used 4/3 of gas. We want to know an exact number. So we're going to change this improper fraction to a mixed number by using division. A moment ago, I told you your denominator is going to be your what? Your denominator is your divisor. Your numerator is your what? Your dividend. It goes inside the box, okay? So denominator is your divisor. Your numerator is your dividend, okay? Denominator is your divisor. Numerator is your dividend. That means it goes inside the box. So let's divide. How many times does 3 go into 4? Once. 1 times 3 is 3. 4 minus 3 is 1. Now here's the part where you're going to have to do what I taught you. Remember I told you you're no longer going to report your remainder as 1 remainder 1. We're not going to say, oh, he has 1 remainder 1 gallon of gas. That's not the way we report it. So now we're going to use our remainder and report it as a fraction. Okay? So your remainder is going to be your numerator. And your divisor, remember, is your denominator. So we are going to say that, what's his name? DeMont. Okay, write out your answer in sentence format. I looked at a lot of the work and some of you just put a number. That's unacceptable for me. There needs to be words next to your number to know exactly what it is that number represents. So DeMont used 1 1/3 gallons of gas each day, period. Notice how my sentence starts with an uppercase letter and it ends with punctuation, okay? Let's try another one together. Let's try another one. We are going to do My Math, page 554, and we're going to be doing number 6. So in the margin, I write number 6 and circle it because I'm going to show my work appropriately. You open up your book to page You open up your My Math book to page 554. We're going to do number 6. Here comes the first read. I would like for you to underline the important information as we read as I write it down on the paper. Suzanne made 2 gallons of punch to be divided equally among 10 people. How much punch did each person receive? Now, what's the important information? Here comes the second read. Suzanne has 2 gallons of punch to be divided. There's a key word. It said divided equally. That's even more of a clue. To be divided equally among 10 people. Okay? How much punch did each person receive? Now that I have the most important information, I'm going to have to write it as a fraction, numerator and denominator. So let's see. We have 2 gallons, right? A punch. That's going to be my numerator. It's going to be divided among how many people? 10 people. Okay, that's what the problem told us. 2 gallons of punch divided equally among 10 people. So that's how I know that 2 is my numerator and 10 is the denominator, because I have 2 gallons divided equally among 10 people. All right, so they're going to be sharing the punch among 10 people. So you could either write this on the line 2/10, because each person is going to get 2/10 of the punch, but I already know that this is not in its simplest form. Okay, I can simplify 2/10 down even further. There are 2 rules to simplify a fraction that you learned in 3rd and 4th grade. The 2 rules to simplify fractions, you probably want to write them down if you've forgotten. The 2 rules to simplify a fraction are to find the GCF, which stands for greatest common factor. And after you find that, you're going to divide by the GCF, or the greatest common factor. So these are going to be rules to simplify a fraction. You might want to copy this down if you don't remember this from 3rd or 4th grade. To simplify a fraction, you want to find the greatest common factor and then divide by the greatest common factor. So I need to know the greatest common factor for 2 and 10. I am going to find the greatest common factors for 2 and 10 using what I like to call a factor rainbow. What number times 1 gets me to 2? 2. Anything else? Is there anything else I can multiply together to get the 2? No. So now I'm going to say, what number can I multiply by 1 to get to 10? 10. What number can I multiply by 2 to get to 10? 5. Is there anything else I can multiply together to get to 10? No. So that means my greatest common factor, the highest number they have in common, is 2. So now I'm going to take my greatest common factor and divide by my greatest common factor, my numerator and denominator. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So the final answer, and I'm going to write this down here in sentence form, is each person gets 1/5 gallon of punch. Each person gets 1/5 of a gallon of punch, period. Please notice how my sentence starts with an uppercase letter and ends with punctuation. So each person gets 1/5 gallon, not 2/10. We want to put it in its simplest form. Great job.
Go.
Okay. All right. Let's try one final problem together. We are going to do My Math, page 554, and we are going to try question number 7 together. So over in my margin, I put number 7. I'm going to show the work appropriately. So let's read together. You highlight or underline the important information. If for some reason you don't have your book, just write it down in the paper as I say it. The baseball team is selling 30 loaves of banana bread. That's important. Each loaf is sliced and equally, that's important, it says it's equally divided. That's a key word there. Equally divided into 12 large containers, okay? 12 containers. That's important. If each slice is the same size, there's another one. How many loaves of banana bread are in each container? Between what two whole numbers does the answer lie? Now notice I'm writing the information down exactly as they give it to me in the word problem. Let's read it again. The baseball team is selling 30 loaves of banana bread. Each loaf is sliced equally, divided in 12 large storage containers. If each slice is the same size, how many loaves of banana bread are in each container? So all of these words here hint to me that this is division. And I already said to you, the fraction bar means divide. The fraction bar means divide. The fraction bar means divide. Say it with me. The fraction bar means divide. The fraction bar means divide. Okay? So my fraction is going to look like this. 30 loaves of bread divided by 12 containers, okay? Or divided into 12 containers. So now let's set up a division problem here. I told you your denominator is your what? Divisor. Your numerator is your dividend. All right? So your denominator is your divisor, goes outside the box. Your numerator is your dividend, it goes inside the box. Okay, now let's go ahead and divide, because we can't say, oh, the baseball team, it's 30 over 12 containers. No, we want an exact number. This is called an improper fraction. We want to change an improper fraction into a mixed number, and the way we do that is through division. So I say, how many times does 12 go into 30? You tell me, or you say it, or you write it on your paper or in your book. How many times does 12 go into 30? I know 3 times 12 is 36. That's too high. So it's going to be 2 times. 2 times 12 is 24. Subtract, I'm left with what? If I subtract this, what am I going to be left with? 6. How many times does 12 go into 6? It can't. I'm done. Now I'm going to report my remainder as a fraction. My remainder is my numerator. Remember, I told you your denominator is going to be your divisor. Okay, so this divisor becomes back to our denominator. So now 30 twelfths is equal to 2 and 6 twelfths. But wait a minute. Wait a minute. That's not my final answer because 6/12 can be simplified by finding the greatest common factor. So hopefully you wrote that down in your notes. To simplify a fraction or to find the greatest common factor and divide by the greatest common factor. Now I'm going to apply that rule. I need to find the greatest common factor for 6 and the greatest common factor for 12. So I'm going to do a factor rainbow. What number times 1 gets me to 6? 6. What number times 2 gets me to 6? 3. And shout out to the neighbor doing the lawn work early this morning. Oh, he's interrupting our lesson, but it's just like school, right? If somebody cuts the grass, we just keep going. So is there anything else I can multiply together to get to 6? No. Let's find the factors of 12. What number times 1 gets me to 12? 12. What number times 2 gets me to 12? 6. What number times 3 gets me to 12? 4. Is there anything else I can multiply together to get to 12? Nope, I have all my factors. What's the highest number they have in common? I'm looking here. The highest number they have in common are 6. So now that I found my greatest common factor, what do I do with it? You said it, hopefully. Divide by your greatest common factor. So put 6, divide my numerator by 6, divide my denominator by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 12 divided by 6 is 2. So our final answer is 2 1/2. So let's write that in sentence form, okay? Because I don't just want numbers on the line. We actually have to say what those numbers represent. Let's go back to the last sentence. One of the last sentences says, how many loaves of banana bread are in each container? So I'm going to write each container has, what do we figure out? 2.5 loaves of bread. Notice how my sentence starts with an uppercase letter and ends with punctuation. Now there's also another question here. It says, between what two whole numbers does the answer lie? Between what two whole numbers does the answer lie? So 2.5, they want to know 2.5 is in between what two whole numbers? Again, 2.5 is in between which two whole numbers? We know it's in between 2 and 3. So 2.5 would be in between 2 and 3. So the second part of your answer, you can write the answer is in between the numbers 2 and 3, period. Again, notice how my sentence starts with uppercase letters and ends with punctuation. Now you only have to do the odds. If you really want to challenge yourself, try the evens.